Okay, but
Can we get video? Oh,
all right, good evening. It is February 6th, 2025 at 7:02, and this is the Board of Finance meeting for the town of Wellington, and it is our budget meeting. We'll start with a call to order. Can we have a motion to call the meeting to order?
Don't move. Oh, that's me.
All those in favor?
I don't-
Aye. All those opposed?
That's
I don't
new.
think you need a motion to call it to
You
order.
can just
You
call it
just
to
call it.
order.
Okay. After a year.
You
I
have
learned
the
that.
power, Bruce.
Yeah.
All right, seating of alternates, let's see,
I moved
Walter
it,
is not in and Jason is
so we
not
need
in, so we
motions. I
need
moved to seat Britt Rothhauser for Jason. Is
Jason Ross.
there a second?
Okay,
I second that.
all right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Because I'm not.
opposed,
So,
abstentions, so that was unanimous.
Make a motion to
And-
seat Melissa Miller for Walt Purcell.
All right, do a second,
I'll
Second?
second.
all right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, and abstentions, so that was unanimous.
So to clarify, because it'll be on the recording, Britt second, I said second and Britt said it for, there was a little delay on the screen. I don't mind who seconds it, but we should clarify for the
Okay.
tape.
We will do that.
Britt, how about you second it?
You got it.
All right.
I believe Melissa seconded the
The first one.
first one out, so, all
Right, I
right.
can't.
I can't.
No.
Now you
We
can.
got that, we got that.
All right.
Yeah, now she can't, right.
So we'll move on to present to speak. Public participation is desired and encouraged. Speakers will be limited to time and appropriateness of comments to maintain progress, stay on topic, and maintain decorum. Do we have anybody for present to speak? Nick?
Hey, it's Nick Tello, Myrtle Road. Sorry, I'm just driving. Give me a second here. So I don't have numbers in front of me, but I'm speaking as just a regular resident of the community and not as a board member. When it comes to the library board, I think they did a great job in finally accounting for revenue. I think maybe for the first time ever. I know first time in a while. So I'm happy to see that. But what's concern is they're going to be, it looks like maybe raising their budget 31,000 and asking the town for 7,800 of that. When you look at what the library asked for, it's about 1.2% of the whole budget of the town. And then when you look at what the revenues were, I think it was about 186,000 increase. If you take that percentage, I want to say the ballpark should be asking the town maybe for about 3,000, give or take, increase. And to ask for 8,000 is almost, if not double, what is appropriate in my opinion. Again, I give them credit for finally including the revenues, and I just think that it needs to be fair and reasonable request, especially when they're trying to add another employee to the payroll. So that's just my 2 cents as a citizen of the town. Thank you.
Thanks,
Should we
Nick.
clarify for the record that Nick's on the library board?
Yes, he said that at the beginning.
He did, I'm
He
sorry.
said
I
that he's a
missed
member of
that.
the board, but he was speaking
I
only
missed
for
that.
himself.
Thank you.
Okay, we have anybody else for present to speak? All right, so we will move on to new business now. Part one is the special revenue fund, and we will start with
Oh,
eight.
should we we don't do the minutes?
No.
Okay.
No, we're not gonna
thanks.
do those to the 20th, it's a
Okay.
Thank you. So under new business, we're gonna start with animal control, A-0511, and I believe Peter Tanaka is presenting us with that.
Thank you. Forgot that I was doing this. I apologize.
It's okay.
Jen, our ACO is not with us tonight. We're asking for I believe it's a 2% over year raise. Right now, we've taken off the truck and gas repairs because we're not using the truck for animal control. We've started utilizing that for the Board of Ed and for the Public Works people as a vehicle for their errands, et cetera. So we've taken that off the budget. Pound repairs, we've moved that from 1,500 to 3,500. We're gonna have to do some hazard mitigation, some heat repairs, and some studies on what to do to bring that up to Department of Ag standards. Also, the engineering for the water supply for Public Works, for some reason, is run through the animal control facility. For we've been trying to figure out why. We haven't figured out why, except that the animal control facility is halfway between the well and Public Works. So we can't drain the water out of it to let the building cool off, or Public Works has no water, so we're gonna try to repair that. That's I believe, the majority of the increase.
That's an all under pound repairs,
Yes.
okay?
And then the revenue projections are in there as well. We're still going to be working with the town of Stafford to have personnel come from there. They're also taking care of our animals that need to be cared for. We've had I believe 1 or 2 in the last already this year, so. We're also in the midst of trying to regionalize animal control, so hopefully there'd be some cost savings there eventually. However, anytime you have 4 or 5 towns put together, it becomes very complicated.
So are we operational now, or Stafford is handling our animal
Stafford is
care
handling
thoroughly?
everything for us.
Okay,
The only thing we're handling for Stafford, right now, we're paying for communications for Stafford, Ashford, and Willington right now as part of our agreement. Stafford is very happy about that, and I believe we're saving $1,000 this year on communications because
1,500,
is it 1,500?
yeah, it's down from 3,500 to
2,000.
2,000,
Yeah, that's through, that's not on us, that's TN that dropped it for us. So I think that between the rise in pound repairs and the fall in communications, that about levels out. And what we're paying for is percent changes in payroll.
Any questions for Peter?
Pete, can you just talk a little bit, I know it's not a huge increase, but it's sort of over the placeholder, I think, right, on the increase? Did you say something about why that is on the wages?
This wage schedule, the wages should be 2.5%. I think we're going up 2% on this, is it
We're going up
It
2.5.
says-
2.5?
And it's,
Oh, what, it reflects as 5?
Yeah, it says
Yes.
5.06%.
yes, because this current year, there is no increase. That budget number is wrong. It's not the adjusted budget number. It's coming later. We didn't have a contract, so we left wages flat last year. So it's really, that number is wrong. It's really 2.5% more than when you put on next year, it's 2.5% more. But since we don't have the 2.5 for this year,
Okay,
it shows 5.
is that gonna be an element in all of our
All of
budgets?
them.
Oh,
Yes.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
shoot, that's gonna be hard to figure out, isn't it?
Well, no, the,
Well, it's a
Well, yes,
cumulative,
yes,
it's a
it is.
cumulative 2 years.
yes, it is, it's gonna be in all of them, sorry.
Yeah, doesn't that mess with our overall, cause we
Probably.
did, I mean. It's not like we didn't go up, we went up an amount last year,
Yeah,
it's not like we left it flat, so.
Right, we went up
For this to
2.5.
reflect an increase, doesn't that, I mean, our actual spending was, I don't understand how this is gonna work out in the wash.
Yeah,
Can you
it's in
tell me?
another line item in the budget, and so it's gonna be transferred to all of the salary line items. And it's gonna show in the adjusted budget column.
Okay, just keep reminding us.
Say that again, so the water goes The feed
So,
goes to that
The feed
pound
goes,
first, then goes. to
pounds first and then feeds the
Yeah.
public works from there. We're gonna try to reroute the water so that we can turn off the pound. We're also gonna. Because of regionalization, Wellington is this dead center of where it needs to be, so it may be our pound that becomes a regional pound. But I think Holland has better access to be able to build something. So I believe they're building the pound there, so I believe that'll be the regional pound. Just in case we put in $325,000 into CIP year 2. In case we need to refurbish our pound and the regionalization falls through.
Any other questions?
That's the way plans.
Great, we'll move on then.
Thank you, Peter.
We'll be skipping Parks and Recreation, scheduling them another evening. So we'll move on now to Family Services, Karen Cote, that's C-0513.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. As you know, my office serves the entire community and most notably our most vulnerable and at-risk residents. We serve the needs of families, youth, and seniors within Wellington. With those factors in mind, I'm requesting the attached budget and asking for a total transfer of $119,935, a $36,921 increase from the current budget. Most of the increase is due to salaries, federal mandated increase in salary for the Human Services Director, also increase in hours for the administrative assistant, as well as the increase for the senior center coordinator due to the loss of ARPA funding. And I don't know if this applies or not, but I just wanted to let you know, I was informed that my Youth Services Bureau grant would not be directly impacted by the federal funding freeze, as the funds that we receive are state dollars and not federal. Dial a Ride, WRTD, which is the Wyndham Region Transit District. I've factored in a 3% increase for the 25-26 fiscal year as the fee has gone up due to rising costs. From July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024, Wellington had 832 rides with 33 unduplicated riders. From July 1st, 2024 to January 9th is when they sent this information to me. There was 308 riders with 17 unduplicated rides. Meals on Wheels, which is TVHCC, Thames Valley Council for Community Action, serves approximately 11 residents. Although that may not seem like a lot, that equals out to about $1,009 per resident, which is a service value of about $11,095 and is 1,937 meals, and they are requesting 2,774, which is a 25% of the total value that TVCCA provides to Wellington. The director's salary, there was a federal mandated salary increase to base salary of all department heads, as the federal government stated people making less than that is not acceptable. Senior Center Coordinator, the salary increase reflected here is due to a planned increase after an infusion of ARPA dollars, and ARPA funds have been depleted and the entirety of the cost is now on the town. The assistant salary is $8,158.80, and she's currently working 10 hours per week, increasing hours to 14 hours at $16.34, which is the current minimum wage. $16.76 per hour with a 2.5% increase, which would bring her yearly salary to $12,201.20. I'm proposing an increase in the assistant's hours from 10 to 14 hours per week. The needs of our community are ever increasing, thus the need for more consistent programming. I believe meeting the needs of our community is vital, and these hours will help to assist in meeting those needs. We saw more families with kids this year. My assistant plays a key role in making the pantry, gift, and holiday baskets program run as smoothly, as well as stocking, restocking, coordinating volunteers, going to Midwest Food Pantry once a month. I cannot do all this work without her, and state law states that she cannot volunteer her time to do her job that she normally gets paid to do. In 2023, the food pantry served 389 adults and 256 kids. In 2024, the food pantry served 819 adults and 764 kids. The adults have seniors included. They were not included last year as no food was brought over to them until this year. And this is everyone that came to the pantry once a week. Holiday baskets, families consist of singles, couples, and families, adults and kids. This year was the first year we did a spring basket, which fed 12 seniors, 33 families, which include 32 adults and 15 kids. This year was also the first year we did a picnic basket, which fed 15 seniors, 21 families, which include 37 adults and 19 kids. Thanksgiving baskets in 2023 fed 19 seniors, 34 families, which include 42 adults and 30 kids. Thanksgiving baskets in 2024 fed 21 seniors, 39 families, which included 46 adults and 60 kids. Holiday baskets in 2023 fed 19 seniors, 34 families, which include 55 adults and 39 kids. And this also included gifts for 39 kiddos as well. Holiday baskets in 2024 fed 21 seniors, 43 families, which includes 57 adults and 55 kids. And this also included gifts for 55 kiddos as well. Statistics vary as sometimes there are more couples or single parent families and full families, meaning adults and kids. Once a month, my assistant goes to Midwest Food Pantry to collect food, personal hygiene, household products for the pantry. We started a program coordinating townspeople who want to donate on a regular basis with fresh veggies and other food. And do you have questions? I know that was a lot to take
I have a
in.
couple if that's okay.
Yeah,
Did you?
Can I just add in
Wanna
one thing
clarify?
is,
Yeah.
I think that the additional hours for Colleen are extremely important. This town has a 13% poverty rate. And we have, Colleen has taken it upon herself to, make sure she knows these people, what their needs are, who they are, what kind of help they need. I think she's working far above her minimum wage rate. And I think we're getting a tremendous deal on the hours we're getting from her, and I think that we need to increase those hours. I don't think we're increasing them by 40%, and I don't think that's unreasonable at all.
Do you have, since you're on that point, do you have volunteers, other volunteers that help out at Human Services, but they're not on staff, so there's not that issue?
we do have volunteers. Colleen has scheduled volunteers to do the food pantry. So Monday evenings, we have volunteers come in from 4 to 6. And then Thursday mornings from 10 to 12, we have volunteers that come in every week to do those, and they rotate. So it's not always the same people. And then we also the seniors do the bread share out here every Wednesday from 10:30 to 11. And we bring food out that we have an excess of. Like if we go to Midwest Food Pantry,
Right.
Colleen has brought out like oatmeal because we have so much of it. So we want to make sure that everybody gets it, you know. And then we also have the mobile food share that comes every other Wednesday. And the need has grown so much. The line is like all the way back to the parking lot. It's just crazy.
Thanks, Karen. And also thank you for sending us the summer camp video that you collaborated with.
I'm glad
Parks
that
and
you
Rec
watched
on.
it.
It was so great. It was so well done.
We still
And,
wish we could do that every year.
Well, I
we
was
did it with the
thinking, it's
grant,
kind of
so-
like this powerhouse year. You got to do this last summer and we'll have to figure some way to have some pot sweeteners in
I
the
told Jimmy
future,
we're gonna have to
'cause-
get really creative, and then of course Jimmy left, so the
Because
new
Phil
person
had a
that comes
grant or
in.
something that helped
we're
you out
gonna-
with that
And I
program,
didn't apply
right?
for any grants, I didn't put any grants in my budget except my Youth Services Bureau grant. But if there's grants, I will apply for them. You're not guaranteed a grant if you apply for it, so I didn't wanna count it. Right now, with my LPC, I'm applying for a grant, a SOAR grant, which is for opioid abuse and use. And they're offering like $5,000. So I am trying to apply with that. I'm meeting with my LPC Monday and it's gotta be in by Thursday. So I've already started filling
Okay.
it out. I just wanna see what direction they want to go in.
Yeah, yeah, grants are good. I just wanted
Yes.
to ask you, Pete, or to clarify on the director's salary, is that part of your payroll increase
Yes.
thing that's happening?
That takes into account the federal mandate and then the 2.5% that the staff gets. Because the mandate came at the half year mark. I'm requesting that they get the 2.5% on schedule so that we are not at the bare minimum federal level. We're losing people too fast, and I don't think 2% above bare minimum is outlandish.
So it's not required to kick in until 2026,
Well,
January,
the first one kicked in January 1st of this year,
okay,
and then there's the 2.5% would be on schedule with everybody else.
okay,
All right,
thanks.
and that's for all 4 positions that I've done that.
All four
Okay.
department heads.
Yeah.
And then,
It also makes the bookkeeping in the business office a whole lot easier for them.
and then on the revenue side, I had a couple of questions. Why, first and foremost, and this is probably gonna be a question for others that are transfer outs like you guys are. Why is the fundraising revenue in the off budget category for this year?
I wanted to move it there because, I wanted to, I don't know how to say it, build a nest egg. So I wanna be able to continue to keep using those funds and build that up. So that way, when someone comes and says, oh, I need help, I'm gonna get evicted or my car broke down, I gotta get to work, it's gonna cost $400, so then maybe we could help them. But I need to be able to build up that nest egg and continue to keep using those funds to have another fundraiser. I
Okay,
am planning another fundraiser with my LPC, which is March 22nd, and it's a bingo at the American Legion Post 26 in Stafford for March 22nd, which is Saturday evening. And then I am also working on another comedy night fundraiser for Human Services. So there's
Okay.
more stuff to come.
well, so that's what what I was seeing is that you had 2,500 this year for comedy night and about 1,000 for the Halloween fundraiser. And I appreciate you aggressively going after revenue in these sort of
Any way I
this smattering
can.
of,
We
yeah,
need the money.
fundraisers. But I'm thinking, I understand why you're trying to build up the balance, but that I'm not sure that, I think that there should be some placeholder there for revenue, just to sort of show what you're doing, maybe not the whole amount, but that there is revenue offset in the budget since it's one of those, but that's just me. If we decide to sit out this year, I mean, I don't, on budgeting revenue numbers, I don't know. Donna, do you have a view on this or?
She wants it to carry forward her fundraising. So I think it's a good idea to move it off budget so that it rolls.
Because
Rolls meaning-
otherwise I noticed
Use
it or lose it.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah. She
'Cause
doesn't lose it.
it will go in the undesignated fund.
oh, I gotcha,
So
okay, yeah.
I don't wanna lose it, I wanna be
You don't
able
want
to
it to go
keep
back to the
using
fund
it.
balance, yeah.
So that way, if something costs
Good.
$1,500, I can take it out of that.
And then
then
you'll use
I
that,
put it back,
yeah,
and then whatever's left after I've put that money back is what is the profit, and that will also go back in there.
okay, I withdraw my concern.
Okay, perfect.
I wanted to know about summer camp popularity though, is that something that's building, are we on an upward trajectory with that? With the population of people, cause don't they pay something for that or do
They
they?
do, but because we've gotten that grant from Phil and the Board of Education, we were able to offer camp at a discounted rate every week. Now we don't have that, so the price is gonna go up sadly. Because we don't have any funds to be able to do that, and we wanna be able to offer stuff to the kiddos.
Yeah,
So we've gotta figure all that out, so I'm very excited for the new person to start at
Yeah.
Parks and Rec, so we can brainstorm and collaborate and do what we can do for the kiddos.
As far as you said that about people being evicted, helping them out with their rents and whatnot. So if they're unemployed, do you try steering them to the state because they have a program where they give training to people who are
We
unemployed?
do not have any homeless resources. I've spoken with Tammy Nuccio about that. So what we typically need to do is refer them to 211. And sadly, they're gonna be on hold for hours, and I mean hours, like 2 hours, sometimes more. And it's very frustrating for them, but I'm like, you have to do that
Right.
because you have to get a caseworker. And once you have a caseworker and they put you in the system, you're in there, and then they can try and help you and do whatever they can do for
They pay for
you.
your background.
And well, sometimes not.
Yeah, well, if
Sometimes,
you're placed in a training program, the way it is now, they'll pay for your rent, just like an NGO in Connecticut that takes care of that.
and I mean, I'll reach out to whoever I can to see what kind of help I can get them. We do a lot of energy assistance programs through Access. If that runs out, then I refer them over to Operation Fuel. And in the meantime, if they get under a quarter of a tank, I do still have ARPA funds for fuel. So I can give them 100 gallons. It's not gonna get them far, but maybe it'll give them enough to get through to get Operation Fuel unless it shuts down. So, I mean, we're just trying to help people as much as we can, and it's sad. It's just sad when you say, we don't have any homeless resources, I can't help you, this is what you have to do. And I have referred people over to the Cornerstone Foundation in Vernon, but I did speak with the director over there, and she said, sadly, they have to call 211. She said, we are only taking families right now that have newborn babies because they were out on the street. So she said, we're not even taking individuals or couples, just families with babies. And I was like, oh my gosh, like,
Thanks, Karen.
Any other questions for Carol?
Karen.
Karen.
Karen?
you said it right the first time, I'll forgive you. You even said my last name right, I was impressed.
So we're all set with family services. Thanks, Karen, for all your information.
You're
We'll
welcome.
now move on to D-0517, which is the library board, and presenting it will be Director Stephen Ossier Jones.
Good evening. So actually, before I begin, Karen Ann Caldwell is on, and on the calendar, she had actually been prepping a letter, so I don't know if she wanted to speak, otherwise I can speak on her behalf. But I just also want to recognize Dipple and Harris, our assistant directors, on this evening, so. I just don't want to steal Karen Ann's thunder if she wanted to.
Is she on there?
Yeah, she's on,
Yeah.
she's just unmuted.
The lights are kind of
Yeah, I
changing.
just want to steal her thunder.
Hi, Karen Ann.
It's not that he's stealing my thunder, it's just I was the one who put the presentation letter together. He's happy to do it if he wants. I sent him a copy of this letter, but I can go ahead and do it. Steve can then answer questions at the end. So I want to thank everybody on the Board of Finance for their support of the library and understanding the needs that we've been through. This year has been hard on us. We've tried to keep the cost of the library down, but unfortunately we have had several major issues. These include having to redo the septic system and loss of heat in the building during the lovely cold snap that we had a couple of weeks ago. So looking at the budget that I sent, we have increased a number of line items. We increased payroll by 2.5% for all employees except the director. The director's salary was set by the state as the minimum amount of money to be a salaried employee, not eligible for overtime. We also last year, because restructuring the director, assistant director versus co-director structure, removed a page, and we put the page back in as 1 day a week for 6 hours. Now, some of the big expenses that we've had. For most of the time the library has been open, we have not been up to code with our technology. A lot of upgrades had to be instituted in the past year. It was originated with a grant that we had, but the cost went much past that grant. And it has also resulted in a number of mandatory yearly expenses that we have. Now, this includes monthly expenses to people like Novus and Tab, who maintain the internet and phone systems. The increase shows an increase from 2,000 to 6,800, which is 42%, but that covers having to put all of these new things in order to make sure the technology is up to date, it's working properly, that all the computers are talking to each other, that there's a firewall between the outside and the directors, the main computers in the system. There was a concern with the emergency phone in the elevator not communicating with the rest of the phones. So a lot of effort has been put in to make all of this technology up to date and syncing with each other. We also increased the security budget because we found that over the last 2 years, we went way over the security that we had on that line item. So it does look like we increased that a lot as well, but it was increased only to the amount that we had spent the last 2 years. Now, building repairs have been a big problem. We had to have a huge increase in the building repair line. But if you notice, we also removed some from the building maintenance and the landscaping to help cover part of that increase in the building repairs. The building is now almost 20 years old, and we had 2 major issues just show up in the last 6 months. One was septic system problems. The entire septic system needed to be upgraded. A lot of the things needed to be replaced. Some of it apparently was faults in the initial construction of the building. Some of it was simply because of age. And Steve could probably give you a better idea, but I do believe the result incurred expenses were in the neighborhood of about $8,000 for the various times that they've come in. In addition, as I said, we had a major cold snap 2 weeks ago where the temperatures were below 0 and the heat went out in the building. So that required an expenditure for repairs. It included inspectors coming out to see what was going on, and then parts and labor. And it lasted longer than was expected, the heat being off in the building, because the part was hard to get. And when it did arrive, it was nearly $4,000. It was $3,800 just for the part. Then in order to put the part in, they had to have a crane to lift it to the roof. That was another $1,000. So it totaled up with all of the different things they had to do to another almost $8,000, $7,800 total. But there was also an additional expense that came with that because the heat was off for so long, we couldn't have the building open and people in there with no heat. So Actionair, the company that does our HVAC, loaned a large number of space heaters in order to warm the building. And that's going to show up on our next electric bill. And we have no idea what that's going to be like. So last year we had a total between maintenance and repairs of about $10,000. This year we upped it to $13,000. If you look at the repair line, it says 300% increase. But since we maneuvered some of the other numbers to cover that, it is a 30% increase, but it's not the 300 that the line item shows. Okay, there's a number of monthly fees that we have to pay. These include our E-rate, our Librarica management software, the utilities, the credit card, the State Library Association membership, annual fees for interlibrary loan programs, the Connecticut Library Association, the Connecticut Library Consortium, Bibliomation, which is a shared computer network across Connecticut, membership in the American Library Board Association. These are mandatory fees that we have to pay, and they just keep going up every year. So there were places where we tried to keep the budget down. As I said, some of the money from the propane, or some of the money from the repairs and the landscaping went into building repairs. We also tried to reduce the propane a little bit to add to that. There was a section where the expenses for patron software was more than $1,500 in the past, and last year we only spent $329. I guess it's this year in the 6 months that we've been in this fiscal year. So we reduced that down, and we reduced the line items for audio CD and DVDs, mainly because people are not using CDs anymore. And eventually that will become audio, DVDs, and ebooks. So looking at the budget with everything that we have done, it shows overall expenses of 295,303, which is approximately a 12% increase. But something that we've never done in the past is estimate what we expect our revenues to be. And with Steve in as the new director, this has now been added to our budget presentation. So that offsets some of the expenses and reduces our request to $271,903, a 3% increase over last year. And in the papers that we got on how to present to the board, it said, please explain anything that just says miscellaneous. We have miscellaneous under both expenses and revenues. Under expenses, miscellaneous supplies the coffee bar that we have, and also pays for mileage for trips that Deb or Steve need to take. Miscellaneous on revenues is the coffee bar, and it's also any sales from Kathy's bookstore. So the report that Steve got from Donna also included a $2 charge to Casella, which we have no idea what that was for. But Steve and Deb have taken several work-related trips. They've gone to pick up free supplies from other libraries, and they've done a number of other things. So we did have to put that into miscellaneous. So you see the budget that we've presented, and we are hoping that only a 3% increase will be able to cover everything that we have, including any possible more unexpected things like we had this year. And hopefully our revenues will pan out to be what we hope they will be. So thank you.
No, I think Karen covered it, but I can also supplement any information or clarify anything as needed. I mean, I've been here for about a month, so I'm still kind of fire hose to the face in terms of information. And obviously 2 days before my first day was when the heat failed, so kind of came in trial by ice and fire.
Right. I might have missed what she said about electricity going up at almost 30%. What was that? Is that somehow related to all this? Well, I don't know, we're on propane for heat, right? Or
Yeah, propane for heat, although I think primarily that's the, we did use a little bit during that time for the library reading room was installed. It has a propane fireplace, so that was also used to supplement heat when we had the heating issues. Looks like electricity, it was 27.59. Yeah, we probably had about half a dozen space heaters around parts of the library, especially on the back office. Actually, I was initially able to get the front of the library fixed, but the back offices there were mornings where I was walking in and it was 46 degrees, and I turned on a space heater and maybe get to 65 or 66 by 5 o'clock when we closed. So we were running multiple space heaters for several hours a day, turning them off at night, of course, and then turning them on first thing in the morning. So we do expect the next billing cycle, that's probably gonna be a pretty big spike. Because that
right,
lasted
that's
for at least a week.
that's in this
That's in this
budget.
fiscal year, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So is there any need to budget that in as a hardwire there? Because
I think the board may have discussed some uncertainty with electricity rates, but.
what are we
I think
projecting, Pete, do you know, is there a sort of overall number placeholder for electrical increase?
That's,
Oh, sorry.
We have a contract for our kilowatt rate. And it's going from 8 cents to 11 cents.
So that's, yeah,
that's,
20 something.
yeah,
yeah, so it may very well have been based on that and
Based
matching
off
that.
that.
probably close to 30,
Right,
30% raise.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, our actuals last year, we were slightly over budget by about $500, so I think there was just a trend that we might spend more. And then probably based off that kilowatt rate increase, we might expect to go up at least 20%.
I guess I'm just confused about the last section where it says programs and then the revenue cluster of accounts, which are different, but there's a few things that are the same, like Friends of the Library shows up as a program
Yeah,
with an expense associated of $5,500. But then it also shows up as revenue with $5,500.
Okay, that's actually easy to explain. We have a number of things that show up identical in expenses and revenue because they are things that come in and immediately go back out. For example, there's an ALG line, which we get $400 a year from, and it immediately goes out to purchase books. From the Friends, we get a certain amount in, and then it immediately goes back out to pay for programming. So there's actually a number of lines that are exactly the same in revenues and in expenses because they are revenues that come in and immediately go back out again.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago, Connie, who's the treasurer for the Friends, kind of asked us to try and restructure try and give them a budget of what we expect to spend on both programs and our museum passes. So we worked together and set that, it was roughly $5,500. For this past fiscal year, they actually made the request and we got it finalized at the start of this fiscal year. So we just wanted to keep that pretty standard for the following year. But usually the Friends are very generous. They'll go above and beyond if we say, hey, we can get an extra program in. Or, there's an opportunity if they donate money for a matching grant, we can go to them and they might go over budget. But yeah, our hope is that those two line items should match going forward. And we usually get quarterly meetings where we meet, or every other month we meet with them. We present any requests for payments that we pay for the credit card, or we put it in their line item. They submit a check back to the town and it gets made whole.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
And so like looking at the revenue stuff, all of that revenue was always coming in. It just wasn't being budgeted. It wasn't in the budget. Is that what we heard in the beginning?
Yeah, that's at
We
least,
We
yeah.
never put that into the budget that we submitted to the town, even though we were getting revenue. Sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Very good. Yeah, no, that's my assumption as well. It was definitely something that wasn't being done in the past few fiscal years, so. And it was an effort by other board members to introduce that to help kind of create a more transparent picture of what the budget looks like and how we can, if we have a bookshop, we should be using that revenue, for example, like Karen Ann said, the bookshop coffee sales, if we sell $300 or $400 in coffee a year, we use that to buy an office supplies, $300 or $400, or less amount on coffee pods, cups, stirs, creamer, so on and so forth. So ideally, that kind of helps offset other line items. And ideally, any of the book sales would also go towards other office expenditures, books, materials. Definitely has a little more discretionary. I'd like to see it more clear and try and go see if we can go forward, maybe adjust the line item to say, having said, be like, what are the bookshop sales? What are the coffee bar sales? And actually be able to report that more clearly so we can disaggregate that.
So just to piggyback on the Friends question. So I was a little confused about that because their programming is not separate and distinct from what the library is planning for programming, right? They're fundraising and augmenting the programming budget, for instance, or how does?
We generally try and work pretty collaboratively. We try and present ideas of what we think we'll need for like summer reading, if we want to buy materials for promotional supplies, prizes for kids, book bundles, things like that. We try and give them a rough idea of what we expect to spend for that fiscal year, and they kind of give that approval so that everything can be kind of lined up. And then they supplement that, their loss in revenue by having the fundraisers like the book sale in the summer and the craft sale and bake sale in the winter, so that ideally and also their investment income and their interest, so.
So
Hope that makes sense.
They come out pretty much even.
Yeah.
On the whole thing, okay. And are you being conservative about projecting grant possibilities for?
A little bit, yeah, no, last year's was predominantly all the IT and networking infrastructure increases against the fiber optic. I forget the exact figure, but it was definitely closer to 10 to 15,000 plus in grants. And there was actually even some extra work that had been done that I think his name is Robert Malt from one of the organizations that did the work towards the tail end of last calendar year. Basically took the hit and ate that cost rather than passing it back to the town and back to the library. So we are definitely being a little more conservative with the grants, but we are going to actively look for them from the state, from federal resources, ALA, CLA. There's other national ones. The one that I mentioned that the library friends could do a matching grant. It's called the Pilcrow Foundation. They specifically fund small and rural libraries. And they have selections of books that, you know, if you apply and get the grant, as long as like another entity supports a matching grant, we'll put in the money to the library and we can get additional books that way, which is also why we kept the book budget flat, because we want to try and get more grants and outreach state donations for books to offset our need to purchase more, because books definitely aren't getting cheaper and not saying the same cost.
Mhm. Can you tell me what the assistant director, how many hours the assistant director works?
35 hours a week.
35.
Yeah, that was the co-director in
Right.
the restructuring process. One of my first things was to hire them and actually formally have paperwork that says they're a assistant director, but they have that set of hours. So, yeah, they're usually in 35 hours a week.
Okay,
And they do a timesheet now because of that change in the law, and that's why I opted to, I didn't wanna bank on top of that 1.5% to ask for the same, ask for an additional 2% with the other staff. I'd rather them get it first and, reevaluate staff and the other things going forward, but. And we also wiped out canceled checks. I was curious about that line item, so we kind of lost that revenue, but we're ideally hoping that we won't have to cancel checks, that if we buy something, we pay for it, and usually we either pay with credit card or we pay directly through Donna's office, so unless anything gets kicked back and canceled for whatever reason. But that seldom happens.
so that you're not exchanging cash when there's a question about it, or you're not dealing with canceled checks versus
Yeah,
credit on the account.
yeah, usually we very rarely get to deal with canceled checks or any of those kinds of issues. Only once in a while if we have a canceled program, like this past year, we had a summer reading finale program get canceled. We just canceled the check. I don't think we counted that as revenue. I think it was we ended up finding another program later in the year that was through the Friends anyways, and just offset that cost to
Okay,
do something different.
yeah.
No questions? Why was there nothing for Friends in this fiscal year? Under revenue, it just wasn't budgeted.
Yeah, it
That's
just
what
wasn't-
you're talking
yeah, it
about,
just wasn't-
cleaning up. a
It was just
little.
never budgeted, and it seems like in past years, it was kind of. You can see last year's actuals for expenses was 3,200, and I think the revenue. Was slightly off, and that was actually in part a lapse in, when I was a programmer, I was only working 9 hours a week, and I couldn't always make the meetings, and so. We fixed it so that going forward, we're always bringing in whenever we have an expense that's on the line item. A lot of it got recouped in this fiscal year for, prior fiscal year expenses, so we were made more whole. But yeah, there's definitely a better system in place for us to meet, present what's expended. They cut the check and kind of go forward on every other month.
Okay, so we're more than half the way through the fiscal year, there's no money that they put in this year for
Yeah, a lot
this.
of been
Or
caught up,
it's already
yeah.
been,
Yeah, January was a meeting where we probably had about $1,600 to $1,800 of requests from several past fiscal quarters.
okay,
That have just been finally all submitted for them to pay back into the accounts. And unfortunately that, with the other co-director leaving in late June, basically from starting that fiscal year in July through the, end of December into early January, kind of had created a lot of disruptions to normal operating practices. But hopefully now that we're more whole, it'll be a lot smoother.
just overall, I was okay if I asked this. Do you have any numbers on, library readership, if you will, like given the trend for people to do a lot on Kindle and a lot on Audible and things like that. I know the library provides services that segue into that, but do you have any sense of, you know, my sense was that a lot more people were reading during the pandemic, even
Yeah.
though the resources weren't, the doors weren't open. You guys actually did curb service then.
Yeah,
But, so I guess I just kind of wonder if you see a trend there, an ascent in readership, or, you know, and also what is what's the connection to books on paper? Is that falling off?
I think with our population, physical books are still relatively popular. I think that's where with the reduction in the budget, we're, you know, gonna be losing a lot of CDs and audio-based items. We still want to offer some audiobooks just for people that still utilize that technology, but we definitely want to focus more on shifting to e-reader formats. That's also an area where we might want to look long-term with the Friends of the Library, as other towns have their friends or a foundation cover the cost of Hoopla, which is a digital lending service. But that can be a little bit expensive, so that wasn't incorporated in this budget. But I would say in general, paper books are still very popular in the library, but we do get occasional across all age spectrums, the request for digital books and how to use them. Probably just every other day, someone's asking how to get into their Libby account, which is the software that's used to access ebooks through Overdrive, which is a subsidiary of Bibliomation. So I'd say it's definitely a trend. It peaked during the pandemic because digital services were the safest at the time. And also the easiest to access. You didn't have to wait, especially if there were materials that had to be interlibrary loaned. And I wasn't there at the time, but I heard the horror stories of trying to figure out how long you had to leave materials quarantined or sanitized. And, we're not really doing that anymore. And so I would say it's starting to level off. And so the e-reader is still good, but not as high of a demand as physical books, at least for Wellington.
Okay. That would be my sense too.
And we're also, we restarted at the beginning of this month, interlibrary loans. We had suspended it because of the disruption in staffing for a while. We were receiving requests from our agents from other libraries, but we weren't sending out materials due to the staffing disruption. But now we're back in this place where if people from other towns want books that they don't have, but we do, we can really start sending them in, which should also help with some of the state grants, both reporting annual data and also reporting patrons that come in and use our library, ask for our materials. We'll probably get additional funding that way, that we probably is gonna be impacted or was impacted by the next few months.
We were also wondering about the downstairs facility, if that's kind of in abeyance right now because there's other more pressing building issues. Or, the potential at one point, you guys surveyed the public about a teen center. Just kind of wondered if that's where you are with that.
That is still, it's still an aspiration. It's a lofty aspiration, but it's one that we still want to pursue. We did have a Girl Scout going for their Gold Award project, was really focused on that. We still have a lot of that data and information. We still want to consider it, and there's money set aside in a separate fund for that project, but we also know that it would probably be a pretty significant capital expense and might require us seeing if we can get any state aid, a steep grant or another grant from the state library to kind of offset those costs. So right now, definitely the focus has been, we met with the town engineer a few weeks ago to do all the exterior CIP projects. He's running into some computer delays, so we're not getting all of it as soon as we'd like, but we're at least gonna have a comprehensive picture going forward. There's definitely a lot of exterior projects that are gonna take precedent, and then we're gonna kind of work more inward. We have a couple of interior CIP projects, but that would definitely be one down the line, is finally getting that space cleaned out, because even going down there, there's massive boxes of cots and leftover N95 masks, and I would like to find a way to get rid of them, try and get Casella to do a bulky waste pickup and really make that space prepped for it to be used in the future.
That stuff is for the shelter.
Yeah, so I don't know how, it's,
Yeah, that they had to put it somewhere.
yeah.
And now there's no firehouse to put them in.
Yeah,
Oh, you're talking about the cot?
Yeah,
yeah,
Oh, yeah, I've been trying to motivate the emergency management director and the chiefs to find a new place for that.
yeah,
But
it's not
it
urgent.
fell off my radar temporarily. Thank you for bringing it back up.
No problem.
See what I can.
It's not urgent, but it wouldn't.
I started on that 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, and I'm still not there. Let's move it up on the urgency scale.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, no problem.
Anything else for Steve? Okay, so we will move on. Number 2 is elected officials and commissions. We'll be passing over on the probate district because we don't have those figures yet, so we'll hit those at another date.
So we're stuck with that no matter what, so whatever
Yeah.
it is.
It's like Region 19.
So we'll move on to B-0131, Board of Finance, Donna.
Yes, I had a worksheet in your pockets and I just set it up and left it exactly the same for you to discuss and request whatever you think you need for next year.
Nice spots. Back to you, guys.
I can walk you through it.
She's very graceful about it too.
Yeah, I can walk you through the line items, the secretary,
Yeah.
that rate is set on July 1st by the Board of Selectmen. And so the $3,400 is adequate for Board of Finance. The advertising, the $100 is there if the Board of Finance needs to put out an RFP for a new auditor or advertise for a new secretary. There's a little bit of money there for that. And supplies, in connection with taking the meeting minutes. I think miscellaneous was budgeted for the annual report.
Okay.
Then isn't there a contingency line that you usually have?
There is.
There is a contingency line.
Yeah, it's down at the bottom.
That line should have been used like 8 years ago and wasn't, and it almost cost the town like $60,000 because we put it someplace else instead of in the, so I would
What do you
suggest.
mean it almost cost the town?
There was a confusion with the governor of the state who wanted us to put up money towards the teacher retirement fund. And said that it wouldn't go towards our minimum budget requirement. And then, so we budgeted to the Board of Ed. And because we budgeted to the Board of Ed and then the governor changed his mind. Then it became part of our minimum budget requirement. And the superintendent at the time worked diligently for 2 years to get it taken back out. And so that we weren't paying for something that we shouldn't have been paying for in the first place
But that's
and
not-
affecting our budget. So if you come into something that you think that that it's gonna be hard to recover. If it's not used, I'd use your contingency line. I'd make sure you know it's there. That's all I'm saying. I don't foresee anything this year.
Right, and this
But-
is not a comparable example. with
Right,
the
there's not a
schools.
comparable
Yeah,
example this year yet. You never know when that's coming up.
Right. Originally, when the reason that we budgeted that was we felt we were, and we still are in this case, it seems like. That we were on the cusp of considering some, serious levels of bonding.
No, that
One
was-
way or the other.
That particular case wasn't for bonding, it was only for our portion of a retirement benefit that.
I'm not
shouldn't have
talking
been-
about
oh,
the actual bond.
Yeah.
You didn't let me finish.
Sorry,
I was talking about we felt like there was some expertise that we might need to have to sort of prepare the town and prepare our decision making on a better level for what that would mean, since we have not had that explanation done. And even when we went out to referendum about a school, we didn't really have good information on that. We were focused more on the process, and of course, the school building committee had a lot of information,
Mhm.
but they weren't really looking at that matter either, the bonding issue as much. So that was actually kind of an offshoot of that. And and that was before the fire departments
Right.
were part of the scenario too.
so
I mean, there's always been a contingency, it's whether or not.
There's always been a.
Yeah, it
contingency line.
hasn't been as
And-
large,
and-
yeah.
Thinking back to last year, when we were looking to advertise or. Put out information to educate and there was no money, that would be where you might want some money in your contingency line to do something like that, I think.
Right,
Yeah, and didn't we also, weren't we worried about the registrars and then?
yeah, we were, that was the,
That-
that was
That
it,
might be what we.
that
did
was part
for-
of it too. Yeah,
We just had a few things. that were
because they
like-
couldn't project, they knew it was coming, but they didn't know what the. what
Right, and I
was.
think they'll be able
Yeah.
to project this year, but it's gonna be. The
Are they gonna tailor
legislature,
that back, do you think?
well, I would hope so, but I don't hold out great hope for the legislature to get their act together on that one. They're adding, if, it should be. That if, they have no excuse, voting ahead, absentee ballots. That you shouldn't need 3 weeks of, or 2 weeks of, early voting on top of that, you just. Vote absentee instead of having to come in and talk to somebody, I don't know. But they keep adding things on and they never subtract something off the other end that doesn't make sense any longer. Why you have, same day registration and late registration. So the only day of the year you cannot register is the day before the election is insane to me, but that. I mean, I don't have omnivision on some of this stuff, so. Maybe they have a reason,
Yeah.
it just hasn't gotten me yet.
Thanks, Donna.
Yeah, that's about it. Well,
Oh, I just
I'm
said
sorry.
thanks to Donna for putting.
Thank you, Donna.
Did you have something?
No,
We'll move on to Z-0135, Board of Assessment Appeals. Donna, that's yours.
yes, I put it together for the DAA, so that's, that's made up of 3 elected compensated officials. And they have 3 line items, and the first line item is their salary, and since they are compensated, they are budgeted to receive the 2.5% increase, just like all of the other employees. The recording secretary, which is the clerk line, that's plenty to cover the $20 per hour that the Board of Selectmen has approved for all of the secretaries. And the expenses are for 2 legal ads in the Hartford Current, $75 each ad for $150, and $100 is budgeted for a BAA member to attend a seminar. So they have an increase of $126.
3 people with 2.5% raise and it's still 120.
I know,
That's-
I know.
Too bad
It's
it's not.
an 8.4 overall.
Questions regarding that? All right, so we'll move on to the present to speak, public participation is desired and encouraged. Figures. Huh?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead. I just wanted to ask, can I ask
Okay,
about next steps for Board of Finance as we're missing budgets? After that, after present to speak, or do you want me to ask now?
No, you can ask that.
Yeah, I was just wondering, since we got like, we're kind of behind. And it looks kind of like a dense plan, so I was just kind of wondering how it's gonna shake out. Are we gonna like have a sleepover, bring our sleeping bags?
I won't be here.
Yeah, I know you won't. I know you don't like that stuff. No, I was just kind of wondering, or maybe we could just offline, figure out how to plug them in.
No, we'll get him in. Like I said, if he's ready next week, we'll have Parks and Rec do it next week.
Cause next week we have the firehouses, so
Mhm.
they have complicated stuff.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
I guess it is what it is, but I mean,
Well, that's the only.
well, we have like, we have Parks and Rec, yeah, that's right, that's the other one.
Yeah, you got probably.
It's just that if it if we have,
Probate's
If we
the
have it-
second one,
Well, I mean, if we had to, the 20th, we only have that set for a regular meeting, so if we have more next week that don't show up, then we can move them on to the following week.
yeah, I think some of that is for deliberations, because so that we're not doing deliberations and appropriations on the same night. That's usually a stopgap for that, but, I did want to ask, did we get the budgets? Did we get the fire budgets in today?
I saw them pop in. Yes, so I'll send them out to you tomorrow.
Yay,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next question. Just because Donna's here, and Pete might know, if any of the stuff that's happening on the federal level with the treasury and the checks not going out and that sort of stuff, is that gonna affect?
It should not affect us, I got emails from CCM and CROG and every other what's the small town one?
Cost.
cost.
Little small town.
Yeah, all those people, when the EO came out, panicked. Then 8 hours later, you're going, don't panic, we're all set, so I think we're probably good.
Hope so.
Hope so too.
Is there in your circles, like with that, when you meet with other selectmen, town managers and stuff, is there any other sort of projected trickle down that you guys were talking about? That you're sort of seeing may have a ripple effect?
You mean problems trickling down or?
Yeah,
cash?
more, no, I'm guessing more like, big increases.
No,
Or,
I,
no, over-
I haven't heard anything yet, but that doesn't mean that it's not coming, I don't expect it, the one thing I did hear is that the governor's trying to fully fund special education. But that's not me, that's Phil, so.
He's trying to do what?
More fully fund special education,
Oh, yay,
yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
yay. That was our biggest
That's
issue.
our
last
biggest
year.
issue.
Yeah.
If I could get rid of early voting at $1,000 per vote and some special ed costs. The state picked up more of their portion they promised to pay in the first place. I think we'd be better off.
Yeah.
And
No.
if I hear anything else, I'll fill anybody in, because I get a lot of these emails from the governor's office, working in the attorney general's office, so if I get anything that I can pass on to the public, I can share it.
That'd be great.
Because there's been some stuff that's come out on the press release, that comes out, so if I notice anything on the education, I'll let you guys know. I'll share it.
Thank you. Present to speak, public participation is desired and encouraged, speaker will be limited to time and appropriateness of comments to maintain progress, stay on topic, and maintain the quorum. Do we have anybody for present to speak? Nick?
Hey, Nick Tella, Myrtle Road, Willington. So I just want to, kind of piggyback a little bit off of what Family Services was saying. I mean, not necessarily what they were saying, but the idea that people are struggling in this town. And last year, we had to go to a second referendum, and even that raise on the town it's too much. You heard that there's people suffering, and the lines are longer than what they even expect. The revenues, the income's not there for people. It hasn't been for years. Looking at 22, 23, going into 23, 24. The town really had no additional revenues, maybe about $15,000, but yet we bumped up our expenses, our taxation, 1.4 million, even though we only had $14,000 in increase revenue. That's crazy. And then last year we added another 831,000 to the taxation base and hurting people again. Going into this year, I hope the board and the Board of Selectmen understand that they're hurting people. They're really hurting people. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nick. And do we have anybody else for present to speak? Nope. Anybody for good and welfare? Walter's not here because he had a business trip, but today's his birthday too, so happy
Hey,
birthday to
happy
Walter
birthday,
Purcell.
Should we sing on camera?
There you go. You want to?
No, I suggest we not.
No singing.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, to the choir.
Yeah, right, I'm not doing so.
If you do good, you can sing at camp next year. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And no abstentions. Unanimous. Thank you, everybody.